Good afternoon, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. My name is Patricia Houston. I work for Family Partners of Morris and Sussex counties. Here is joining me, Cecilia Gomez. Welcome, Cecilia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Nice having you. Definitely, we are very happy that you are here doing this presentation for Family Partners and for our community. So Cecilia is a community cancer specialist and is here from Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. There she is the community outreach engagement. So Cecilia, I'm just gonna let you take the lead, but before we start, I just wanna remind everybody that this Lunch and Learn is brought to you by Family Partners of Morris and Sussex counties. The presentation is gonna be recorded, and at the end, we are gonna allow time for Q&A. I'm gonna let you take the lead.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm very happy to be here, everybody. Just give me one moment while I set up my screen and we're going to get started.
And while Cecilia is doing that, I just want to let you know that all that information is going to be in the description below of the video. So if you have any questions in relation to contact information, website, all that information is going to be there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And welcome, everybody, to Eating for Cancer Prevention. Again, my name is Cecilia. I'm a community cancer control specialist, and our goal here at the Community Outreach and Engagement Department is just to spread awareness about screening and things you can do to lower your risk for certain cancers. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about nutrition. So just a disclaimer, this is not a substitute for a medical consult. You should always speak with a physician regarding any health problems or medical concerns you may have. And also all logos, text, and images used in this presentation are the property of their respective copyright owners. So we do have a little pre-test just to see what everybody knows already. I'm going to launch the poll, so it should come up right on your screen, and I'll give everybody a moment to answer the questions. And we are going to take this same test at the end of the class as well, and we'll review all of the answers then. The first question is true or false. There are 5 different food groups. Second question is you should select foods with 5 grams or more of fiber per serving. And third question is walnuts are a great source of healthy fats and fiber. Okay, I see a few answers coming in. Thank you so much. I'll give it another minute or two. Okay, I think mostly everybody has answered, so thank you. And we will go through these at the end of our presentation. Cool. So our objectives for today are to demonstrate knowledge of the big or macronutrients, as they're called, that play a role in our health, and learn about how foods work together to maintain our health and lower our risk for diseases and some types of cancers, including. We're going to get started with the basics, of course. So there are 5 food groups, and they are fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, and protein foods. And we see them together on this My Plate. So you may have seen this My Plate at health clinics. Maybe if you have kids in school, they have it in their schools or their nurses' offices. And this is what a representation of a healthy plate might look like. And whether you are plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, or you eat from all types of foods, we can still use this as an example. So we have half of the plate made up of fruits and vegetables, and this is extremely important. We really want to make sure that whenever we're sitting down to have a meal or a snack, we have a fruit and vegetable in there. About 1/4 of the plate is grains, and preferably we want to focus on whole grains, and we're going to get more into that in just a bit. And 1/4 of the plate is protein, and this can be a plant protein or an animal protein. There's also a small section of your plate reserved for dairy. For those who are lactose intolerant or you don't eat dairy, you do have plant-based dairy options that have been fortified with calcium. So that is where those would come in here. And in addition to the 5 food groups, we also have something called macronutrients. So we have macro really just means big. So these are big nutrients that our body needs to produce energy and maintain its structure. So we have carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And each of these macronutrients provide our body with a different number of calories per gram. So it's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram of protein, and 9 calories per gram of fat. We also have micronutrients, and the micronutrients are vitamins and minerals, and these are extremely important for our health. They have a variety of different roles in our body that help it to properly function. For example, different vitamins and minerals work to help our blood clot, maintain our immune system, build and maintain our bones, and ensure proper nerve and muscle function, as well as to promote cognitive development. So we're going to get started with talking about the carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are actually your body's preferred source of energy. So they are very important. They provide our body with glucose, which fuels our brain, our muscles, and our hormones. However, there are different carbohydrate food options, right? So our goal today is to show you why it's important to select healthier types of carbohydrates whenever possible, so that we have a clean source of energy, right? So we have wholesome carbohydrate choices and not so wholesome carbohydrate choices. And we like to say wholesome to remind us to eat whole grains, because these are great sources of fiber that help keep our entire gut healthy. They feed the microbiome, which is the trillions of bacteria in our digestive system. Wholesome carbs also have fiber, which is super important for keeping our blood sugar stable and maintaining healthy cholesterol levels. So good examples of wholesome carbs are fruits and vegetables. They provide us with energy, with fiber, without spiking and crashing our glucose or blood sugar levels, which even if you are not type 2 diabetic, you may have experienced a sugar rush before, right? That's from that quick glucose spike that then very quickly comes down after eating something that's high in added sugars. So the examples that we see on here are examples of not so great carbohydrate choices. We're not saying that you can never, enjoy a treat. You can never enjoy a donut or a cheeseburger or French fries. We just really want to be sure that we're being mindful of it and enjoying it in moderation. And the main reason for this is that none of these options on the screen have fiber. And fiber is so extremely important for our health, and also in terms of reducing our risk for some types of cancer. So we really want to make sure that we're getting enough fiber. And if we're eating a lot of these foods that don't have fiber, it's very likely that we're not getting the recommended amount of fiber per day. So why is fiber so important? I mentioned that fiber feeds the good bacteria in your gut, also known as the microbiome. And this is because our digestive system actually can't break down fiber on its own. It has to get passed through our small intestine to our large intestine or colon, which is where those trillions of bacteria reside. And then they use it as food, and they're the ones to actually digest, and they ferment it. And this fermentation breaks down the fiber into short chain fatty acids that can actually stop cancer cells from growing within our body. Fiber also has a few other functions. So it increases the bulk of stool. So it adds volume to that stool. And the more volume that a stool has, generally, the more easily it's going to pass through our digestive system. So it helps to keep us regular, make sure we're not experiencing any constipation or cramping. Helps to control blood sugar and healthy cholesterol levels. And perhaps most importantly, in the context of reducing your risk for cancer, it binds and transports toxins out of the body. So think of any herbicides, pesticides, or heavy metals that you may have consumed throughout the day. Getting enough fiber is going to make sure that it sticks to those pesticides, herbicides, or whatever it may be, and digests it and transports it out of the body so that it's not spending too much time inside of our digestive system. So some sources of fiber include whole grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds. Really, any plant food is going to have some amount of fiber. Generally, there are some foods that have more fiber. For example, beans are usually going to have the most fiber out of any other plant food, but that doesn't mean that they're more important than broccoli or spinach. So how many grams of fiber do we need in a day? You want to aim for 30 grams per day. The current recommendation from the Institute of Medicine is about 25 grams a day for women and 38 grams a day for men. So, 30 is just a good number to aim for. And most Americans get far below this recommended amount. Many Americans consume maybe between 12 and 15 grams of fiber. So if you think you may be one of these Americans who aren't getting enough fiber, you can try to start adding it into your diet very slowly. You don't want to do it too quickly because fiber, it's not digested by our digestive system, right? So it may cause a lot of cramping, bloating, gas if we're not used to it, even constipation, which is what we're trying to avoid. So you start out by adding just 5 grams per week to allow your body time to adjust, and make sure you're drinking a lot of water. It's usually about 2 to 2.5 liters per day is recommended for adults. And this is especially important once you start increasing your fiber as well. And if you feel good with that additional 5 grams a week, you can go ahead and add another 5 grams the next week and keep going until you get to that 30 grams per day. And fiber isn't the only important aspect of eating fruits and vegetables. We also get phytochemicals from them. And phytochemicals is just a word for plant chemicals that give our body plenty of different antioxidants, such as carotenoids. So carotenoids are a special type of plant chemical that gives carrots their orange color. But it also acts as an antioxidant to protect our cells from damage. And we want to protect our cells from damage as much as possible because damaged cells usually are what start the cancer process in our body. Flavonoids are another type of plant chemical, and they're found in a wide variety of foods such as celery, onions, parsley, oregano, chocolate, black and green tea, as well as red and purple fruits and vegetables. And flavonoids can help regulate gene expression and help the cells in our body to communicate with one another. And this is important because, again, once that communication goes awry, it can initiate the process of cancer development. And allicin is another very potent plant chemical, and it's mostly associated with garlic. So if you know that pungent garlic smell, that's actually the allicin. And allicin is a very potent anti-inflammatory phytochemical, and it can also slow down the growth of cancer cells and again decrease inflammation and helps our cells to self-repair. So a tip to increase the amount of allicin that we're getting from our garlic is to chop your garlic and then let it sit for 10 minutes. And then after that 10 minutes, the allicin is at its strongest. And if you want to take it even a little bit further than that, you can actually add it to your cooking towards the end of the cooking. So instead of sauteing your garlic as the first step of cooking, like many people probably do, add it in towards the end, just so that you're taking out that very strong taste and cooking it down just enough so that you're maintaining the allicin. And now this is an extremely interesting example of how vegetables can really help reduce, cancer risk. So this was actually a study done on breast cancer survivors, and it showed that those who ate 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables daily, which includes vegetables such as cauliflower, cabbage, kale, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, those that had a serving daily had a 13% lower risk from dying of cancer, and those that actually had 2 servings had a 20% lower risk of dying. So that's, just amazing. And we've all heard that the saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and there may be some truth to that. So the dietary fiber in apples has been associated with a reduced risk of estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. They are also packed with a type of flavonoid, again, that plant chemical called a flavonol. And there's some evidence that suggests an association between apples and a reduced risk of lung and esophageal cancer. And asparagus, which is actually in season right now in New Jersey, provides folate, vitamin K, and some iron. And vitamin K is very necessary for helping our blood clot. And there's also some evidence right now that suggests that consuming asparagus can help reduce your risk of aerodigestive cancers. So cancers of the esophagus, mouth, pharynx, larynx, lung, stomach, and colorectal cancers as well. And you're probably aware that folate is recommended to women of childbearing age, and this is because it helps with cell division. So a developing fetus is constantly dividing and creating new cells, right? So that's why it's so important for them to be getting enough folate so that we're making sure that this is happening correctly. But it's important at all stages of life as well. Blueberries are another great source of fiber, flavonoids, vitamin K, and elagitannins. Elagitannins are a plant compound that is found to be very beneficial for the good bacteria in your gut, can actually cause cancer cells to self-destruct. So there's also convincing evidence that blueberries increase the level of antioxidants in our body, which can protect us against cancer. A good tip is to look for wild blueberries if you can. They're usually found in the frozen section of the supermarket, but they tend to have a little bit more fiber and antioxidants. And we've all heard of kale as a superfood, probably, and this is because it really is an antioxidant powerhouse. It has plenty of carotenoids, and carotenoids enhance our body's production of antioxidants, which again help protect our cells from DNA damage when you're exposed to something toxic, like again herbicides or pesticides. And kale specifically is associated with a reduced risk for colorectal cancer, which is one of the top leading cancers right now. We talked about beans having a great amount of fiber, and this is true. They tend to have at least 11 to 15 grams of fiber per cup. So for somebody who's trying to get 30 grams of fiber in a day, that's about half of your fiber intake already. So you may not want to take that all in at once, break it up throughout the day, so that you're not putting too much stress on your digestive system, but it's a great tool in the toolkit, I think. And again, it also has folate, which is a B vitamin that helps your cells divide properly. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. And it also has vitamin C, which helps digest, use, and manufacture protein within your body. And now something that we want to avoid are the calorie-rich and processed foods, or the CRAP. So an example would be all of the different sugar-sweetened beverages on the markets, even some of these that are marketed to be healthy, such as, vitamin waters or energy drinks or sports drinks. A lot of the time, these have an excessive amount of added sugar. We see that in this small container of yogurt alone, there are 27 grams of sugar. So that's quite a bit. We're going to see on the next slide that the limit for added sugars is actually 25 grams for women and 36 grams for men. And you're always going to be able to find added sugars on the nutrition facts label. So we see it here under total carbohydrates because sugar is a carbohydrate. Total sugars here are 25 grams, and then underneath that, we have 23 grams of added sugars. So what we want to be looking at here are the added sugars, because these are the sugars that have been associated with risks of inflammation, overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes. The natural sugars in food typically come with antioxidants, fiber. These are the ones that are found in fruits and vegetables, for example. So 25 grams for women and 36 grams for men is the daily added sugar limit. And now this is some good news for people who enjoy coffee. Coffee has actually been found to decrease the risk of endometrial and liver cancers. But keep in mind that these studies were done on black coffee, not on coffees with a lot of added sugar or syrups or whatever it may be. It's okay to sweeten it a little bit if that's what you enjoy, but we want to be mindful of it. And this is because coffee is a plant. Coffee comes from the coffee bean, and it has a lot of antioxidants. And again, some phytochemicals, those plant chemicals that are so beneficial that we talked about. Now, if you're not a coffee drinker, that's okay. You also get some benefits, similar benefits from teas, such as green tea and black tea. And now we're going to talk about protein, which is another macronutrient. We're going to start off with some foods that we may want to be a little bit more mindful of. And the number one food is processed red meat. So processed red meat is a carcinogen, meaning it has been definitively linked to an increased risk for cancer, especially colorectal cancer. So this includes processed meats such as sausage, hot dogs, deli meats like ham, turkey, salami, bologna, and pepperoni. All of these contain a high amount of salt and also nitrates. A lot of salt has been linked to cancers such as stomach cancers, and nitrates have been found to be harmful to our cells. So we really want to avoid this whenever possible. If it is something that you enjoy, just try to limit it to maybe just a couple of times a month. We really want to be careful with this because it has been linked to an increased risk for colorectal cancer, so much so that if you were to eat 50 grams of some type of processed meat every day, which would be something like a hot dog or 2 slices of deli meat, your risk for colorectal cancer would increase by 18%, which is quite a bit. And so we're also going to talk a little bit about red meat. So red meat is not a carcinogen. Red meat can actually be okay in the context of a healthy diet. It does have protein, it has iron, it has some B vitamins. So as long as we're not overdoing it, as long as we don't have any pre-existing heart conditions that we need to be mindful of, then red meat can be okay. But we need to be careful with the amount that we're eating. It's recommended to eat no more than 3 servings per week, and those serving sizes should be no more than 4 to 6 ounces per week. And that's usually actually going to be about the size of the palm of your hand. This is going to give you a good reference for what a 4 to 6 ounce serving may look like for you. And so eating any more than this, eating more than 18 ounces of red meat per week has been linked to increased risk for colorectal cancer. And our final macronutrient is fat. And I think in the past, fat has had a negative connotation, right? But there are actually some types of fat that are very good for us, and they provide us with a lot of benefits. Healthy sources of fat usually come from plant-based sources, so nuts, seeds, avocados, but they also come from fish as well. And so omega-3 fats are typically the fats that are found in fish like tuna, and salmon. However, they're also found in walnuts. And omega-3 fatty acids are so important for our brain health, our immune function, and it helps to reduce some inflammation in our body. We mentioned walnuts being a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, but most nuts are as well. Walnuts do tend to have a little bit more, but any nut that you enjoy is going to have some healthy fat. It's also going to have some fiber, and it's going to have a little bit of protein as well. And studies have actually demonstrated that eating a serving of tree nuts per day, whether it's walnuts, pistachios, or mixed nuts, can reduce the reoccurrence of colorectal cancer among stage 3 survivors by 42%, which is huge. And however, there are some fats that we should be avoiding. And the most important type of fat to avoid is trans fat. And trans fat is a type of fat that is added to a lot of processed and refined food products, such as baked goods, anything that's very shelf stable, like this Twinkie or cookies, or anything that has been frozen, like frozen mac and cheese, frozen pizza, may have trans fat in it. However, you have to be very aware, because usually it's not going to be shown under the nutrition facts. We see here that this product has 0 grams of trans fat. However, this product can have up to 0.5 grams of trans fat and still be listed as 0 grams. They are legally allowed to be labeled as not having trans fat, even though they do. So what we want to look for is the ingredients list. And we're going to look for partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, or hydrogenated oil, or some sort of hydrogenated oil in the product that you're looking at. That is an indicator that there is trans fat in this product. And trans fat has been linked to many health problems, including heart disease and cancer. So we want to limit this as much as possible. And another carcinogen that I want to mention is actually alcohol. So alcohol can increase your risk of not just liver cancer, which is what we might associate it with, but also mouth, throat, esophagus, larynx, liver, and breast cancer. And the more that one drinks, the higher their risk is too. And this actually increases if you smoke as well. So we want to be mindful that 1 drink a day is considered safe, and that is typically 12 ounces of beer, 1.5 ounce shots of liquor, 5 ounces of wine, and 8 to 9 ounces of malt liquor. So typically 1 drink a day for women, and then 2 drinks a day for men is the guidelines. And it's not recommended to save them all up throughout the week and have them all in one day on the weekend. That is considered binge drinking, and it's very stressful to your body. The good news is that exercise can actually reduce certain cancers. So exercise lowers sex hormones such as estrogen, growth factors that have been directly linked to colon and breast cancers. It lowers inflammation, which inflammation can cause cancer. It also increases the transit time of food. So it's speeding up your digestion so that your gastrointestinal system is exposed to fewer carcinogens. Again, those herbicides, pesticides, or heavy metals. So the recommendation for adults are 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. So moderate means that your heart rate is up, but you can probably have a conversation. Or 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week, meaning your heart rate is a little bit higher and you probably can't have a conversation just because of how heavily you're breathing and how much higher your heart rate is. You also want to include strength training in that. Strength training is extremely important for maintaining lean muscle mass. And there is some research that shows that people who have more lean muscle mass have have a higher chance of survivability after, if and when they have been diagnosed with a type of cancer. So about 2 days of strength training is recommended on top of that 150 minutes or 75 minutes of cardio activity. And we also have some great resources here in New Jersey. So we have the NJC program, which is the New Jersey Cancer Education and Early Detection Program. And it's a program run by the New Jersey Department of Health in collaboration with local agencies and healthcare systems. And the NJC program provides education and outreach within the community about different types of cancer. They also provide free screening for those that are unemployed, underinsured, or uninsured, or they face some sort of barrier to getting the cancer screening that they need. And this program is currently offered in all 21 counties throughout our state. And actually here at the Cancer Institute, we have our patient navigation program, and our patient navigators are there to help you get connected to Screen NJ, to those cancer screenings that you need, again, whether or not you're facing some sort of barrier with your insurance, language barriers, they're here to help you. So I'll make sure to get this to Patricia so that she can email it to those who joined us today. And so in summary, we want to make sure we're getting enough fiber, about 30 grams of fiber per day. We want to make sure we're getting enough exercise, so 150 minutes of moderate activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity and 2 days of strength training. And possibly the most important is to make sure we're getting screened. So please don't hesitate to reach out to our patient navigation program if you need help getting to cancer screenings. And so before we move on to questions, I do want to do our post survey. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our second survey. And then we'll reveal the answers once everybody has a moment to put their responses in. Okay, I see a few answers coming in. Give it one more moment. Okay, thank you everybody who submitted their answers. So there are 5 different food groups. This is true. You should select foods with 5 grams or more per serving. This is also true. And walnuts are a great source of healthy fats and fiber. This is also true. Thank you so much, everybody who answered. I believe we're going to stop recording now so we can take some questions.